Tameka, Tiny, Harris has welcomed us into their home to share with us the highs and lows of public scandal and hip-hop fame. For almost 2 decades, the world has referred to them as the royal family of the South. But amid the mansions, music, and reality TV cameras, Zonnique Pullins' true lineage has lingered in the shadows of the internet, whispered by skeptics and discussed in comment sections. Despite being commonly acknowledged as Tip's bonus daughter and Tiny's eldest daughter, Zonnique's relationship with T.I. Zonnique has never been referred to as a stepfather. He looked after her, protected her, and claimed her as his own right away. However, a shocking new DNA report has surfaced, upsetting the Harris family and leaving Tiny in a very visible, unfiltered state of agony. This is more than simply a piece of paper or a test result. It's about the proof of a deep connection. Once the results were finalized, it was definitively verified that T.I. is, in reality, Zonnique's biological father. Years of public assumptions over Zonnique's paternity were disproved. For Tiny, it was a period of intense validation. Unbeknownst to Zonnique, it was the final piece of a puzzle. Furthermore, T.I. considered it to be the ultimate affirmation of his lifetime dedication to parenthood. Tonight, we are analyzing this heartbreaking finding. We're looking at the rationale behind this test's timing, the intimate conversations that happened behind closed doors, and Tiny's collapse upon learning the truth. It's not only well-known rumors. This is a story of family, identity, and a bond that was written in the stars long before it was inscribed in the genes. Prepare yourself, because the Harris family will never be the same after this. Instead of beginning in a lab, our story begins in the heart of Atlanta, where the Harris heritage first began. To understand the gravity of this DNA claim, we need to look at the foundation of Tameka, Tiny, Harris, and T.I.'s relationship. When they first began dating, they were more than just 2 well-known musicians collaborating. They were a family under continual media attention. Zonnique was constantly at the center of that change. For many years, it was commonly accepted that Zonnique was the daughter of Zonnique Pullins, Tiny's old friend. This was evident in both public records and reality TV narratives. But as Zonnique developed into a woman, the public's eye test began to flare up, and Tiny was unable to put it out with a few comments on Instagram. Instead of starting with a huge bang, the rumors started with a whisper. Images of a young T.I. were compared by fans, and Zonnique, highlighting the identical brow lines, jaw shape, and Harris eyes. In the age of social media, these observations become a common fixation. Every time Tiny posted a family photo, the comment sections became a war of amateur genetics. People were not only fascinated, but they were also demanding the truth, often in ways that were incredibly disrespectful to Tiny's character. For a lady who had devoted her life to building a reputation for dedication and realness, the idea that there was a mystery regarding her daughter's paternity was a challenging burden. The atmosphere at the Harris residence began to shift. Even though T.I., or Tip, as his family calls him, has always been Zonnique's perfect girl dad, never once treating her as anything less than his own flesh and blood, the outside commotion started to seep into their private life. Tip is a man of tradition and logic. He is extremely proud of his family tree and the security of his hustle. When the public began to doubt the daughter he raised, protected, and guided into the music industry, he could no longer bear it. Sources close to the family assert that the what-ifs began to loom in the air out of a need for total clarity rather than suspicion, even though Tip never questioned his connection with Zonnique. Tiny, ever the lioness, had fallen victim to an emotional sin. On the one hand, she wanted to protect Zonnique from the chaos of a public DNA debate. However, she was tired of the gloom. She was tired of being referred to as a bonus daughter and having Zonnique's biological father, Zebo, compared to her all the time. Ultimately, the decision to proceed with an official DNA report was not an impulsive decision, but rather a conscious, albeit challenging, step toward peace. The objective was to give Zonnique a strong response that she could live by for the rest of her life, especially as she started her own journey into parenthood with her daughter, Hunter. In the days leading up to the test, there was reportedly a strange, quiet anxiety. As the family continued their economic ventures, shooting and recording music, the elephant in the room became larger. Tiny claims that this is a time for reflection. She knew that if the results showed Tip was the biological father, 20 years of history would be changed. It would suggest that, concealed by preconceptions, a biological miracle had taken place in front of them. It would suggest that every time Tip formed that unexplainable link with Zonnique, biology, rather than just chemistry, was at play. As the DNA samples were being collected, Zonnique started to feel the gravity of the issue. Throughout her early years, Tip served as her primary father figure, helping her navigate the industry and shielding her from the drawbacks of being famous. He was Pops to her, but the idea that her DNA would match the guy who had always been her hero was almost unthinkable. Despite the impartiality and coldness of the scientific method, it was the biggest emotional risk the Harris family had ever taken. They were looking for a reality that would either completely change how they perceived the past or solidify their future in a way they could never have predicted. They weren't just looking for chromosomal markers. It is said that Tiny prayed all night long because she realized how much was at stake, not because she was afraid of the truth. If the inquiry showed that Tip was the father, there would be a huge public uproar about her secret keeping. But the emotional recovery would be even more significant. She was prepared to face the music if it meant her family could at last breathe. The narrative shifted from being about a stepfather and a stepdaughter to the possibility of a biological link that had been hidden for 20 years. The excitement in their inner circle was at an all-time high. Close friends and family members disagreed. Some believed the resemblance was too obvious to be a coincidence, while others cautioned against boosting their expectations. Tip, however, remained steadfast throughout. He didn't leave Zonnique or change how he behaved. If anything, he listened more intently, as if he already knew the final words of the page. Zonnique was a true Harris, according to his instincts, which has always led him. When Tiny finally heard that the report was completed, everything seemed to stop. This moment would define the next stage of their lives. It was more than just a medical record. Once it left the lab, it was a finding that would soon make headlines. Tiny realized that whatever was placed there would irrevocably change the family hustle, and that the emotional barrier was about to explode as she reached for those findings. The doubt was about to end, and the truth was about to liberate them in the most unexpected way possible. The atmosphere in the Harris residence was so dense that a knife could pierce it. The afternoon the official DNA report was delivered. For Tameka, Tiny, Harris, this wasn't your typical business meeting or day of filming. This was the result of 20 years of side eyes, whispers, and reflection. After the messenger delivered the packet, Tiny is reported to have sat with it in her hands for a long time, staring at the white, clinical paper that could totally change her family's history. She wasn't alone because the inner circle had gathered around her because of the tension, but the silence was unbearable. When she finally got the strength to break through the barrier, the room seemed to get smaller. Her eyes scanned the technical terminology, trying to find the 1% that mattered, and the world around her went blurry. And there it was, a 99.9% chance. T.I. was Zonnique Pullins' biological father, Clifford Joseph Harris Jr., as the research clearly and scientifically confirmed. The reaction wasn't a cheerful yell or a contrived moment for the cameras. It fell apart. Usually the pillar of support for her husband and kids, Tiny broke down in a way that no one close to her had ever seen. It was the visceral, primordial release of 20 years of suppressed emotion. Beyond the biological fact, she was grieving for Zonnique's years of being called a liar by the public, for the confusion Zonnique had gone through, and for the sheer magic of a connection that had existed without a name. She reportedly sobbed while clutching the document to her chest. "I always knew," she remarked. For years, Tiny had to deal with the paternity scandals and cheating rumors that bloggers used to boost their click-through rates. This was the ultimate vindication. My soul knew, but the world tried to tell me I was crazy. Now she possessed the ultimate shield. But having to confirm her daughter's ancestry in the first place was a difficult pill to take. Whether it was a secret she kept from herself or a truth she was too afraid to reveal, the weight of the secret was finally lifted. Tiny's public outburst stood in stark contrast to T.I.'s equally profound answer. Reports indicate that Tip, who was well known for his King of the South persona, calculated, articulate, and often stoic, entered a state of shocked silence. He went over to Zonnique, who was standing still in TH corner of the room, and simply hugged her. Words were not necessary. This man had been her bonus dad for years, giving her advice on how to succeed, as well as protection and discipline. When he found out that the person he had chosen to love was actually a blood relative, his identity was totally transformed. The complexity of this moment cannot be overstated. For Tip, this was a spiritual alignment. He has always discussed the hustle and the legacy, but he had no idea that he had authored this legacy entirely. Zonnique's Harris traits originated not just from his influence, but also from his DNA. Witnesses claimed that he read the reports several times, as if his intellect was trying to make sense of what his heart had already accepted. The step prefix was deemed obsolete with a 99.9% match. However, reality set in once the initial shock dissipated. How can a family cope with such a wide reality? Zibo Pullins had been co-parented by them for many years. The narrative they had crafted was accepted by the world. They now had to deal with the fallout from a biological reality that contradicted their public image. Happiness wasn't the only factor contributing to Tiny's emotional breakdown. The difficult task of rearranging their life also played a role. She knew that as soon as this information was made public, the internet would go crazy. Zonnique's reply was maybe the most poignant of them. While her mother was overworked and her father was reflective, Zonnique seemed to attain a state of serene clarity. A young woman who was already a mother felt a sense of belonging that she was unaware she lacked after reading this article. She had always been a Harrison spirit, but all of a sudden, she was a Harrison fact. All of a sudden, the traits she recognized in Hunter, her own daughter, made more sense. It was clear who the ancestors were. It was a direct route. The night was spent in a safe, tranquil bubble following the disclosure. The family disconnected from the outer world, turning off their phones and ignoring the sounds. This shared reality kept Tiny by Zonnique's side, strengthening their bond. There were times of pure, unrestrained laughter, lengthy discussions about the what-ifs, and apologies when they realized the absurdity of it all, that the king and queen had a princess they didn't even know was biologically theirs. But beneath the joy, Tiny was still grappling with the why. Why now? Why did it take 20 years for this reality to become apparent? The hidden years started to have an impact on her. She began to think about the discussions she had overlooked and the impending legal problems. This was not just a familial matter, but also a legal, societal, and historical one. The recent birth of the eldest biological heir to the Harris royal family had significant ramifications. By night's end, the tears had dried, but the atmosphere in the house had permanently shifted. Family Hustle was no longer just a program title. It was now a reality. Tiny had a totally different view of her daughter and spouse. Not even she had really understood the connection between the guy she loved and the daughter she adored. The DNA report was just a sheet of paper, but it held a real-life earthquake. When the DNA data was finally released to the public, there appeared to be a broad internet problem. For a long time, the story of T.I. and Zonnique had served as the bonus parenting role model for the Black community. They demonstrated that a father was formed by actions rather than blood. But the finding that T.I. was actually her biological father drastically altered the story, shocking both supporters and critics. Tiny, still reeling from her own tragic vacation, was engulfed in a social media maelstrom. The questions were asked quickly. Despite the anticipated skepticism, Tiny felt additional worry. How did they not know? What about Zibo? Is this a PR stunt for a new reality season? But this time, she refused to back down. Refusing to back down, she made use of her position to explain the complexities of her past. She described how the time frames of her early years coincided, how she genuinely believed Zibo to be the father, and how surprised she was to discover that biology had been deceiving her all along. Instead of asking for pardon, she was asking for understanding of a life under observation. The legal repercussions presented the next difficulty. After obtaining a biological confirmation, the Harris family had to navigate the complex process of birth certificates, names, and legal rights. Zonnique had been a Pullins all of her life, but going by Harris was more than just a name change. It was a means for her to reclaim a lost part of herself. Tip, ever the strategist, reportedly responded to these developments with a muted intensity. He was more concerned with capturing his reality than the drama. He wanted everyone to know that the girl he had raised was indeed the daughter of the king. Beyond the documents, though, the most profound change was in the family dynamic itself. T.I.'s other children, Messiah, Domani, King, Major, Deja, and Eris, now had to accept that their big sister was truly their biological sister. They already had a close tie, but this announcement strengthened it considerably. Tiny noticed that the siblings became even more protective of Zonnique, as if to make up for the years the truth had been kept a secret. The Harris house, which was usually lively, seemed more unified than previously. Zonnique perceived the discovery as a connection between her past and her future as a mother. When she looked at her own daughter, Hunter, she saw the Harris traits in a new generation. The DNA test showed her origins in addition to identifying her father. The sense of foundation it gave her eased the emotional what-ifs she had carried since childhood. She could now enter any space, go to any business event, or attend any family gathering with total assurance that she was part of the family. The impact on T.I. was perhaps the most obvious. His personality changed, according to his admirers. Even though he was still the confident, outspoken rapper that everyone knew, there was a new softness in his connections with Zonnique. The burden of being a stepfather, which required continuously negotiating space with a biological father, was no longer present. He didn't have to prove that he was now her father. This shift was evident in their social media interactions, where the bonus labels were dropped in favor of a more direct and powerful term, daughter. As the months passed, the media's initial shock gave way to awe at the story's climax. The Harris family had turned a potential scandal into a testament to their faith and fortitude. Tiny's emotional collapse, which was once a private moment of vulnerability, came to symbolize a mother's consolation. She emerged with the truth at her side and her family unharmed after carrying the weight of everyone's mistrust. In the end, this DNA report achieved more than just confirming a basic fact. It redefined what it means to be a family in the modern day. It proved that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction and that love often triumphs over science. T.I. and Tiny had spent decades building a house built on love, and when reality eventually hit, the mansion stood stronger rather than fell apart. This was the royal family of the South's greatest achievement despite scandals, imprisonment, and changes in the industry. They had recovered their past. As the cameras faded and the bloggers moved on to the next topic, the Harris family was finally at peace. Zonnique was no longer the bonus child. Rather, she was the firstborn of a lineage that was finally complete. Tiny's tears had opened the door to a future devoid of rumors, secrets, and mistrust. Just a mother, a father, and a daughter, bonded by blood and a love that had once lasted through the ages. The Harris family's journey has been a roller coaster of notoriety, disputes, and strong emotions. But this most recent episode demonstrates how the truth always manages to come to light. Tiny's emotions were over the end of 20 years of silence, not just a scientific discovery. However, we would want to hear from you right now. Have you ever observed how similar T.I. and Zonnique was too strong to be a coincidence? Or did this DNA report truly catch you off guard? Please leave your ideas in the space provided for comments below. We would be delighted to hear your opinions and responses. If you enjoyed this in-depth look into the life of the royal family of the South, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to set post alerts so you never miss an update on your favorite celebrity news. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you at the next one.